Showtime.
Good evening, and welcome to the February 11 meeting of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. As is our usual procedure, anyone who wishes to, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business this evening is approval of the minutes of January 14.
So moved. With second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We have received informational reports from Travis Kennedy on a variety of legislative matters, which is received. And can I have a motion to receive this as part of our meeting this evening?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Comments from, there are no other informational reports at this time. Comments from the general public? Seeing none. We'll move right along to the consent agenda. We have two items on the consent agenda, 1905 and 1906. Can I have a motion on those items?
Move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move for approval as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Can I put
Discussion?
one? Yes, I'd like to pull out what 19 was 005. We have the sheriff's office. Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
006.
You have 006. I want
So
to
can we,
pull out for some
then
discussion.
we'll table for a moment 006. All those in favor of 005, please say aye.
Aye.
It's approved unanimously. 006, why don't we treat that as a regular agenda item and proceed to a hearing on it right now?
Well,
Commissioner Wojciechowski.
the reason why we'll pull it out, because I had some concerns on, but I think when I sent an email today to Jim, and he will forward it on to Captain Goulet. Captain Goulet, would you like to maybe touch on some of the questions I had, or?
Refresh my memory, because
Well, I think the one was, why do we go over to Bangor or for Quirk? Well, but you said, well, that's where the fleet operation is. And then the other one was regarding the two-wheel drive over four-wheel drives.
sure. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Don Goulet. I'm one of the captains with the sheriff's office. I have the most, out of the three of us, I have the most institutional knowledge on the vehicle ordering, because I've been doing it for 13 years since being here. So hence, you get to listen to me. One of the questions that Commissioner Watonis asked was about the fact that the bid, when it came in, it shows that it's out of the Bangor Quirk. I actually had to call our government rep to make sure that what I thought was correct was correct. So Quirk has 14 dealers throughout the state. So all of them aren't Chevy, all of them aren't Ford. They vary. So the government rep, or the government sales rep that I deal with Quirk, he's based out of Augusta. Augusta Quirk is actually a Ford dealer. So there's a Quirk down here in Portland, and he says the only reason they don't deal with the Chevy Quirk dealer down here in Portland is just the way that they're set up within their company. He goes out of the Bangor office. For purposes of warranty, we can actually go to any Chevy dealer for the warranty service. It doesn't have to be Quirk. And actually, for the last couple of years, our fleet has been using Pape Chevy over in South Portland, only because they've given us really good service, priority service. They've treated us very well. So did that answer the why Bangor?
Yep, yep.
And then the other question was, and you can tell me if I'm too verbose, because there's a lot of history when it comes to the two-wheel drive. We have been running on the two-wheel drive Chevy Tahoes. I think this will be it's either the 5th or the 6th season. So for those of you that are around prior to that, Ford got out of what everyone remembers that was the staple for like 15 years, the Crown Victoria. And they discontinued manufacturing that particular model. So we were faced with what are we going to do for the following year, because Ford did not have an answer to what they were going to replace the Ford Crown Vic on that year. So the two options that we had were the Chevy Tahoe, because for those of you that remember the Impala was a 6-cylinder front-wheel drive. Being our rural patrol, we knew that front wheel has a potential being a long-term issue in terms of maintenance. Also, it was actually a size down from the Ford Crown Vic. The other one that Chevy was coming out with was the Chevy Capri. So we had looked at that, but again, that was actually Captain Stewart's driving the demo car that we had got that year, that actually I got. It was too small, again, in terms of all the equipment. The other one was the Dodge Charger. So the side issue was all the equipment that was gonna come out of the Ford. We try to be frugal, we try to reuse everything that we can. All those choices was causing a significant additional amount of equipment that we were gonna have to purchase to transition over into the Dodge Charger, the Chevy Capri, or those were the two. So we started looking at the Chevy Tahoe. At that particular time, Chevy Tahoe, what they had for what we call the police pursuit, when you see my staff report, we call it a PPV. So the police pursuit package was the two-wheel drive. At that particular time, they did not have a four-wheel drive option. So for those of you that are familiar with the Tahoe, it's much bigger. It offered us a lot of extras that we were looking for in terms of all the equipment that we throw in these vehicles for the deputies, because of unlike a municipality where they can go back to the station and pick something up, or for supervisors' cars, the bigger car has the extra equipment, they can bring it out to the scene. We don't have that luxury out in the field, so everyone's got to be as equipped with everything that they possibly will need. So that's how we settled on the two-wheel drive. So 3 years ago, Chevy came out with a four-wheel drive police pursuit package. They always had the four-wheel drive special services package, but it wasn't pursuit rated. So obviously, as you can imagine, one of the things that we struggle with by putting a deputy in a vehicle that's not pursuit rated, there's some liability concerns about driving conditions that they're going to be faced with. So basically, we looked at them. We do buy now, as you saw in the staff report, there is one that's pursuit rated four-wheel drive. They are more expensive. They're about $26.85 more per vehicle. And so for the patrol deputies, that is the majority of the vehicles that we're buying and replacing is for them. So right now, what you have in front of you, it's for 6 of the vehicles for the deputies. The four-wheel drive is for the supervisors. The reason we put them in the four-wheel drive is at the time, that was the only one that had a towing package, and they had a potential of having to hook on to something, whether it's our boat, whether it's one of the trailers. So we are now, so as we've been preparing the budget, I try to think that we're fiscally frugal, so it just came down to money, is the reason why we're in the two-wheel drive police pursuit.
Well, I think what my concern is, especially out in my area, with two-wheel versus a four-wheel drive, I particularly think it would make more sense to have more of the four wheels out there, four-wheel drive, because of the roads. I mean, you've got the camp roads, you've got the secondary roads, you've got a lot of the windy roads up and down. So, would like maybe sometime if we could maybe think about going with all four-wheel drives. Yes, I understand it is a little bit more money, but in the long run, I mean, wouldn't it be better to have something that you can get around in versus with the two? Or maybe that's just, thinking out of the box. But, about my concern, especially out in that way, I mean, as Commissioner says here, out beyond the city limits where the roads are still dirt, and we do have a lot of our dirt roads, we're still out that way.
You're still talking about eastern New Hampshire?
No, so, that was my concern. I was just a little surprised with that we were only doing with the one four-wheel drive, and that goes to a supervisor versus a deputy.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing since we've
You're right.
gone to these.
Oh, I understand that, but do you think at some point that we could start to maybe look with the other way? I mean, I know it all comes down, to money, but if you can't, we get there from here, then, yeah.
Maybe I could ask you, in terms of how the specifications review goes inside the department, who are the people that are kind of evaluating the particular details of these vehicles? Sounds like you might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, so back when all of this was changing, I got tasked with reaching out to our different dealers and trying to get that information. You also know that we have a fleet. We have 2 fleet mechanics, so we utilize them too for input. Again, some of it came from talking to other municipalities or cities that were driving the, in this case, the Tahoe, but again, we had no, at the time, Ford wasn't an option because they weren't coming out with that model year. Fast forward years after they did, and if you recall on the SUV, they were getting a lot of attention reference to the carbon, the monoxide. Inside the vehicle. And of course, we didn't want, until that got rectified, we didn't want to deal with that. So, yeah, it was a group effort in terms of looking at all of this and trying to look at what best meets our needs. Now,
Have you had experience with needing to pull people out of ditches or anything like that? I mean, do you see any pattern of activity that says that there is a need for four-wheel propulsion from time to time, or what's your experience, do you know?
Right, have the deputies complained that the two-wheel drive's not working?
patrol captain, he has that ear on him.
I guess I have to say that
Who are you?
we've never, thank you, Scott Stewart, I'm the captain of the sheriff's office.
Thank you.
And I'm glad we're having this discussion. I guess I'm a little taken back that we're being called to task because we didn't spend enough money, and usually it's the other way around. I'm all for four-wheel drives, but it is a money issue. I wish we had also had this discussion before we put our budget together, because I feel this is kind of after the fact. The budget was blessed, and now we're scrambling to answer these questions. But to answer your question about pulling people out, I would not endorse starting pulling people out of ditches, because I think we're setting ourselves up for ripping bumpers off. Things that happen.
I'm talking about our vehicles. Are we having to pull any of them out of ditches? Or
Oh, yes, yes.
Having bad experiences with
Yes, definitely
lack
a
of-
four-wheel drive is a better all-around vehicle. What it comes down to is dollars and cents. I have talked to the mechanics, as the Captain Goulet had alluded to, and I asked recently if we've seen any difference. Are we having more front-end issues with a four-wheel drive compared to the two-wheel drive, and we have not. So I would endorse moving forward in that direction, but it's a dollar issue, that's all.
You won't get a lot of pushback from us about spending, less money.
Less money?
than
I think it's
what you
great.
do.
I think it's great.
It happens
I'm
about
glad
every
this is being televised, so someday,
Yeah, about every 15 years it comes up, and that's about it.
Perfect.
so.
No, I'm all for it, and I know certainly the troops like to hear that as well, but,
Yeah, in this
To have the
instance,
discussion-
it'd be another 16 grand for 6 vehicles. So
Right.
That's a
Right.
chunk of change.
It is a chunk of change, and where it comes from, obviously, is the million-dollar question. I mean, we've sharpened our pencil, and that's what we're tasked with, is to work within our budget constraints and what we've come up with. And to put that on us now would be difficult, that's all.
So if possible, before the next round, it would be great if the grade heads got together at County Way and thought about, is there a significant improvement in how things could happen?
Sure.
$16,000 a year, and, we'll take it from there.
Perfect.
It would be good to know what your actual experience is, and if it's showing up with some problems, then we're probably going to want to address them.
Yeah, performance-wise and on the road and getting to calls, there's certainly no negative. I mean, it all comes down to the budget.
Okay. Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, if we're going to go down that road, I guess the other thing I'd like to see addressed is who's assigned vehicles based on activity and what type of vehicles. I mean, I think those things are very appropriate at this time, because the more sophisticated you get, the more divisions you can make.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion on 19005? So moved.
No, 06.
006, sorry.
Second.
6 is moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Go straight to new business. The county's CDBG applications. Krista Stiles is with us tonight. Krista,
Would you like to stay here or head on up to the podium?
right up to the podium would be great if,
Kristen Stiles, Cumberland County Community Development Director. As you may know, that we are in the CDBG application season right now. We released the applications on October 29th, and they're made available to the public on that date. We do a pre-application. The pre-application is to make sure that everyone is CDBG eligible before going through the process of filling out the entire application. There's no limit on how many pre-applications anyone's allowed to turn in, but we do require that all nonprofit organizations either go through a town, a city, or the Cumberland County in order to apply for the CDBG funds. And what has happened this year is, in the pre-application process, we had 7 organizations and county departments want to apply using the county as the sponsor for CDBG funds. So the way the process works right now is it's not actually in the bylaws, but starting in 2012, they decided to limit the number of applications, limit the number of applications that town, city, or the county could turn in. And what they decided was to limit the county to 5, and we have 7. So what we have recommended doing this year is moving 6 of them forward. And the reason we have decided to do that is, one of the applications isn't eligible, and one of the applications had a late submittal, but the application that had the late submittal was Opportunity Alliance Homeless Prevention Program, and that homeless prevention program really helps Cumberland County, and we kind of felt that it wouldn't be fair to them to not let them submit an application. So what staff is recommending is sending 6 applications forward to the Municipal Oversight Committee and letting them decide if they're going to accept 6 instead of 5 on behalf of the county. I know I ran through that really fast.
okay. Do you need action tonight on that issue from us, or is that?
Yes.
Right.
And just to add, this is something that's really never rose to the level of a need to bring before the commissioners. It's been 5, and typically applications coming in under the county umbrella have been 2, 3 in a given year. This year we had 5, and then all of a sudden we got 6, and then all of a sudden we got 7. And we felt it would be prudent to have the legislative body take a look at this and provide some guidance on moving this forward to the MOC.
So,
What we would also I would also like the Municipal Oversight Committee to look at is their reasoning for limiting the county to only 5. As we try and look at things more on a regional scale, it makes more sense to be having these nonprofit organizations not just work just inside Westbrook or just inside Gorham, but really to have more of that regional approach. And there is an unlimited number of applications that can be submitted that are multi-jurisdiction. So, for example, Cumberland County is teamed up with North Yarmouth and Yarmouth to submit an application. And there's no limit in the number of those, but they have limited countywide. And looking at the applications that were submitted from these nonprofit organizations, Alpha One is putting ramps on people's homes that without the ramp, they cannot get in and out of their home. And so that's saving our fire and rescue departments tons of money who will be called to help people get in and out of their home. Or Catholic Charities is providing wraparound services when people don't have any food. So these are organizations that are really doing a lot of good on a wide scale, and I would hate to limit them and say just because it's in Cumberland, Yarmouth, and North Yarmouth, you can't go help somebody in Westbrook. Yes?
Kristen, I'm sorry, I must have missed it, but I'm getting this, are you telling me that the county's the only entity that's limited and yet it's our program?
No, so what the Municipal Oversight Committee decided was to limit each individual city and town that's participating in the program, limit them to 2 applications, 2 general and public service applications and 1 planning application, and limit the county to 5. So, for example, Westbrook, again, this year submitted 2 applications, 1 public service and 1 construction application. And I understand the reasoning behind this is to make sure that someplace like Westbrook, that tends to score really high because they have a high low-income population living there, wouldn't submit 15 applications, which would then knock somewhere else like Naples out of the running of, getting to turn in an application. So there's good reason to put the limitations on it. My concern, coming in from the outside, is that by limiting the number of applications that the county can turn in, we're really limiting the number of regional programs, and that may not necessarily be the best thing for our community development program.
okay. Any other questions? Neil?
No, I was going to move, and I will move that we instruct the Municipal Oversight Committee to review the 6 applications to see if they want to carry all 6 forward, and moreover, review the overall policy of the limitation.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Just about timetable, Kristen, is it a March decision? Is that what we're looking at for a final decision? What's your deadline?
So the Municipal Oversight Committee is going to, actually, the review team is going to start meeting this week. The Municipal Oversight Committee is meeting March 7th and 14th, I believe, and then we'll come to the Commissioners' Workshop on March 25th, and then it's at April and March meetings, or April and May meetings, that you'll make the final decision.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also, we're going to take a vote here in a second, but I'd also kind of, me too, the issue of having the committee look at those bylaws or bylaws that they have adopted. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so it's not in the bylaws. The latest version.
I just wanted to ask, where did the bylaws come from?
The bylaws were written in 2007, and they were updated in 2009, and they haven't been updated since then. But in the meeting notes from the municipal oversight meeting, somewhere along the way in 2012, they decided to make this limitation, and it's kind of just been followed ever since then.
I think it might be important for us to review those bylaws as well. I assume that the authority for the bylaws travels with the authority for the program, and that would mean that we would want to be looking at it. And I, for one, at least, completely agree with your idea about regionalism as opposed to trying to put collars on activity that would push people towards single community projects, so.
Great. So we might be coming to you with new bylaws sometime either over the summer or probably in the fall.
Maybe so.
Kristen, what's the total number of applications today?
So we have 21 applications that were submitted.
Very good.
We ready for a vote? Pending motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Next item, we'll look to Alex Kimball to talk to us about transferring the year-end fund balance to reserve accounts. Or Jim?
He may be sitting on the money, but I'm the one that like to spend it, so. I bring this forward in requesting that the commissioners consider transferring $83,000 from the 2018 year-end fund balance into the strategic planning reserve. This is a very similar process that we did, I believe, last March of 2018. And it is just some things that were left hanging when developing the 2019 budget. And we just could not get them into the 2019 budget. And they were small, but they were impactful when they were placed into the budget, as we were trying to keep the budget under 5%. So as I worked through the budget process in the fall and ultimately having it approved by the commissioners in December, I had my scratch pad of little projects that I bring forward this evening. The projects, like I said, total $83,000. They include $20,000 to have an independent firm take a look at our pay plan. As the commissioners have heard, probably for the last 6 or 8 months, our pay plan has a significant issue with it. And it is, from my opinion, it was constructed in the wrong manner for it to be sustainable for use by our HR and finance staff for the long term here in the county. So that $20,000 would bring someone in, take a look at what we did back in the 2012 to 14 era, and make recommendations on how we could fix the plan so that it works for us for the foreseeable future. The next item is a portion of the overall total, but it's $5,000 towards conference chairs for the EMA conference room. EMA has reconstructed their office space up in Wyndham. They have switched some things around, and they have a much larger conference room for their meetings and planning activities. And they're in need of some chairs to outfit the tables that they have. So I'm making a request for $5,000. As the commissioners are aware, we do have a new district attorney. The district attorney, as you could imagine, moved into the DA suite, a suite that was occupied by Stephanie Anderson for over, 18 years, 28 years, somewhere along that lines. Long time, since the early 90s. And just by way of needing to make it his own, there was a need to remove some furniture, to remove a carpet, redo some floors, paint, removal of wallpaper, and the facilities department's working with him to get those projects going. But of course, there needs to be some seed money to pay for it. So I'm making a request for $10,000 to be applied to that project. One of the major priorities that Bill Holmes up at the Communications Department has had for a number of years, and it really comes from the Kimball report that was developed on the front end of the development of the communications facility as it stands today, is frequency sharing. And it has always been something that has not been entertained by those who participate within our communication or dispatch service until recently. Bill has brought it up 2 or 3 times in the last 6 months, and just recently a handful of larger communities within the dispatch facility has been willing to give it a shot and see how it works. And this frequency sharing would allow a single frequency to have multiple towns or departments on a frequency. That would create great efficiency for the dispatcher that is trying to monitor those various frequencies that we currently have that have have single use public safety personnel on, whether it's fire or whether it's police. So what it's trying to do, and I'll give you an example, it's trying to bring together a Wyndham, a Gorham, a Naples, all on the same frequency. And, that may not be the case, but that's the example I'm throwing out. That will condense 3 frequencies that's currently being monitored down to 1. And so there's a need to have an outside third-party contractor do this work for us, and manipulate the frequencies. The total cost is $12,000. I'm asking the commissioners to consider $8,000 this evening, and the $4,000 would be charged off to the current year communications budget. As the commissioners may or may not know, Travis Kennedy in my office has been doing yeoman's work with towns from Falmouth to Harpswell on the brown-tailed moth epidemic that has been taking place and spreading on an annual basis. I believe this first hit the radar of the commissioners about 2 years ago when an individual from, I believe, Bodenham at that time brought forth an ask of both the Saginaw County and Cumberland County commissioners for $5,000 to start a process of reviewing what it would take to mitigating the spread of the brown-tailed moth. And as I mentioned to Falmouth to Harpswell, it goes much larger geographic area than that. A lot of the mid-coast area is heavily inundated with the brown-tailed moth, and it's moving inland towards Lewiston. As I saw, City of Lewiston has a brown-tailed moth committee that is meeting, and it's coming down, and it's all guesses are that it will be in Portland, if not more south this year, if not next. There is only one individual that is considered the expert, and that is a doctor up at UMaine who has taken this on, has done some preliminary studying of the brown-tailed moth. But she is the only one. She's considered a world expert because there is really only one place that is known that this issue is going on, and that is Maine. There's not a lot of emphasis or initiative or money being thrown at this problem because it's only a small geographic area in mid-coast Maine that is dealing with it. And until such time that the weather patterns change, and we have I believe it's a very wet, warm spring or a wet, cold spring, one of those, and it kills it off, it will continue to spread. And so what this $15,000 request is for is our contribution in the overall collaborative between all the communities I made mention to look at funding a phase 1 study with this doctor up at UMaine, Dr. Groden. And this is a multi-year study. So what we're in hopes of doing is each community coming to the table with some funding, get the study going, but they have also submitted, and Travis is working with the House Speaker's office to get something going through the legislature this session, even if it's a directive from the legislature to the UMaine system to take this on full-time and pursue it. So a lot of communication is going to be going over the next 45 to 60 days up in Augusta on this topic. But on this particular case, I'm asking for $15,000 so that if we do have enough money from the collected towns, we will be able to contribute something towards phase 1 of the study. Another ask I have is $8,000 for HR office furniture. This is a project to create greater efficiencies and better customer service in the HR office. Some reconfiguration and some lowering of some walls needs to happen. As if you walk through in the HR office right now, you can walk and if the point person there, the admin assistant is not there at the desk, you don't know if there's anyone else in the office because they're all hiding behind very tall walls. And in turn, staff can't see who's coming through the door. And so it's our hopes that we can reconfigure this office, that it's not only more staff-friendly, but more employee-friendly when they walk through the door. So that's an $8,000 request. And then my last item on this list is $17,000, and that is labeled under miscellaneous. And that is, we always have those small projects that pop up throughout the year that needs to be funded or have some seed money. And this would be the area that we would propose taking that money out of. As the county budget is a very static budget, very locked down once it's approved, and there's not a lot of give and take in the budget, as it's really right on point and funds what is needed. To have a little bit extra money in an account somewhere to do something special for the next 8 or 9 months would be of great value to the departments and staff of the county. So that's what my proposal of $83,000 is, and here to ask or answer any questions that the commissioners may have. Thank
How
you.
much do you say for seed money?
$17,000.
Other questions?
Yeah. Jim, do you have any knowledge of what Saginaw County contributing to the, making a commitment to contribute to the brown moth problem, brown-tailed moth problem?
I do not. We are operating, for lack of a better term, really in a funnel with the towns from Falmouth to Harpswell. And it is our group that's really pushing the ball.
Okay.
Is it for a larger region? Probably yes. And there's probably an opportunity, as this legislation goes through, to team up with others to have more of a joint effort.
How much would we need to retain this Professor Orno?
I believe it is approximately $60,000 each year for 3 years.
Okay.
So it's our hopes that if we can come up with that first year to get us through this year, get her going, and her grad students going, that we will be able to get some headway up in Augusta, that year 2 and 3 will fall into place.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. Jim, on our communication, the $8,000, will that cover the town's radios? Because I know at one time that was a big concern if they did the frequency sharing, is all the radios in the town would have to be reprogrammed, and the towns didn't have those funds available. And I know at one time they had talked about a grant of getting some grant money. So would that come out of the 8K, or would that come out of the CCRC 4,000?
Well, what I was approached with is that to do the radio frequency, it was the cost was $12,000. So I'm assuming that the reprogramming of the town's radios would be part of that.
Could you look into that before?
I could.
Okay, because I thought it was a lot more money than that, if I remember at some of those meetings, and some of I know the sheriff's office was not in favor of frequently sharing a frequency because of the volume that they do. So would they be a standalone, and then all the other communities, that we service, they will group them up, or how would that?
At this time, the sheriff's office would be a standalone. They are one of the larger
Right.
call volumes
Yeah.
that we have, if not the largest. It is, from the discussions that I have had, it's the towns that are willing to bring and to merge. We already have one frequency, I believe it is Cumberland and Bridgeton share a frequency
Yeah,
together.
right.
But it's to kind of follow that model.
Right, okay, yeah, okay.
But I will check to see whether it goes right down to the communities and reprograms
okay.
them also.
Okay, well, thank you.
I apologize not having that answer.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine, that's fine.
Other items? Anyone?
No.
Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
You have your money.
And Alex has got some more if you need it. you know.
He doesn't have that much. That's why I had to cut my budget down.
The non-union personnel policy reviewed last month, we're making a few more changes. Jim?
Yes, thank you. Bringing forth 3 changes. The first was, it came up, it was either just after the commission, it was just after, it was Martin Luther King Day, in which we did have a snow event, and we had to call facility staff in for digging this building out in anticipation of the staff arriving and the public arriving on Tuesday. And one thing that we grappled with was how are we going to pay these employees? It happens so infrequently that they get called in on a holiday. There's only a couple of holidays that fall in the wintertime, and then for it to have a snow event and they get called in, that's the percentage really goes down. And so between Alex, Don, Brewer, and myself, we talked about it. We developed some language, and we thought it would be prudent to put this language. It may never be used again, or take 5 years for it to be used again, but it would be something that would document it in the personnel policy on how we approach this. And really, we took a lot of it right from what we do for the unions. And what it reads is, for all non-union hourly, non-exempt employees who are required to work on an actual holiday, the employee shall receive 8 hours holiday pay in addition to straight time pay for hours worked on the actual holiday. Holidays shall be computed as time worked for purposes of overtime. Employees will not be allowed to bank their holiday. So that is the proposed language for that. Yes?
This is for people that are hourly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Then we have a change to the dress code, section 15-10. And I guess we really wanted to hit this home because this section was in the personnel policy twice. And that is talking about scented products, perfume, aftershave, cologne, people wearing those in the workplace. And sometimes people wear it and it's not that intrusive. Sometimes you can smell them 3 offices over. And so we wanted to put something in that addresses that, but we put it in 2 different areas of the personnel policy. So we've opted to take it out of section 1510, out of the dress code. But rest assured, there's still a section in there addressing it. And then the last item that was picked up from someone in the district attorney's office was, actually the dress code item was, the perfume and fragrance item was too. But the inclement weather policy talks about if an employee opts not to come into work on a snow day, but the building, the county's open, that employee has the right to take their earned time. The policy read that they could take their vacation, sick, unpaid leave of absence, or personal day. That really doesn't jive with the existing language within the personnel policy, as our non-union employees earn earned time. And so they would be taking earned time leave. So what we're proposing is just inserting earned time leave and striking out vacation, sick, unpaid leave, or personal time. So pretty minor change. So those are the 3 changes. As we talked about back in January when the commissioners looked at the entire document, it's going to be a living document. Did I think I would be back to you with some changes the next month? No. But I think before we do a mass production and get this out to all the employees in paper form, we want to have it as tight as possible. So I think we're in good shape right now. Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, a question on your last item there. You said they can use the earned time. You wouldn't allow them to use personal time if they had no earned time?
We don't give personal time.
Then why is it in the policy?
I believe it is. Is personal time in the policy?
There is personal time that can exist for some of the other union positions, so it's probably in there for some of those. It may be mentioned in there, but it is not something that is presently for non-union.
Other questions? We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item is 19009, the amendments to the non-union personnel policy.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And setting the salary of the sheriff for the current year, can we have a motion to delay this for a month, until our next meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-1. Incidentally, I should have mentioned early in the evening, Commissioner Coward is not with us this evening, and that's an excused absence. He's out of state on business. We don't have any other old business. Let's talk about comments from the county manager.
Terrific. A couple of things I want to report out at the Cross Insurance Arena. This past weekend, we had a big weekend. We had 3 hockey games in 3 days. Close to 7,000 people attended the 3 games, so good turnout for at least 2 out of 3 of the games. We also received, within the last 2 weeks, delivery of the new ice deck, which was in the capital plan for the arena this year. The ice deck was laid down and cut to specifications of the rink last week, and staff is thrilled. It's a little bit bigger pieces, easier to put down, and it will give them, it'll be a lot quicker for them to do a changeover in the facility. It looks really good, too. Just to remember, we have goal setting. I believe that is going to be Monday, March 18th. That will be a facilitated process, and I will get you all out more information on that in the next week or two. Travis, as you saw during the informational reports, Travis did submit a synopsis of what's going on in Augusta so far in this legislative session. Travis was unable to be with us this evening as he's had a sick house for the past week and needed to get home to do his tour at the house. But if there are any questions from what Travis passed out, please either let me or go right to Travis to ask him any questions, and he can bird dog anything that you may have. In January, we had our new jail major start, Tim Quartz. So far, Tim has really melded terrifically into the fabric of Cumberland County. Very impressed with his knowledge of jails and his approach to things. And I think I can speak for all employees that we're looking forward to working with Tim, and I think he's going to bring some great ideas and new initiatives to the Cumberland County Jail. And so we wish Tim all the luck in his new position here in the county.
What's Tim's last name?
Quartz?
Quartz.
K-O-R-T-Z?
E-S.
E-S? Yeah.
Yes. K-O-R-T-E-S.
T-E-S.
But pronounced like quartz.
And lastly, Alex and I have been invited, and I believe Commissioner Gordon will be attending as well. The Freeport Town Council has asked us to come up tomorrow evening to talk about what we're doing here in the county and talk a little bit about our 2019 budget. So we're looking forward to sitting down with the Freeport Town Council and tell them all the great things that we're doing down here in Cumberland County and what services we can help them with. So with that said, that concludes my communications this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, Do you have
Just one item. About a week ago, we received the final state valuation for the county of Cumberland. Overall, the valuation for the county increased 6.45% countywide, which is, yes, a pretty large number for countywide. It occurs to me, as I mentioned, that perhaps something in future years, particularly this meeting, would be to present you folks how that impacts all of the municipalities. It can have pretty wide-ranging impacts. If a community has a much higher than average valuation increase, their taxes will go up more than the average. Conversely, if a community has a lower than average valuation, it can have a lower than average one. Probably be very helpful for the commissioners to see that and go through it, just so they know which towns within their districts are affected in which ways. That's all I've got.
6.45 represents what number, and then what's the total?
I should have had that in my hands.
Commissioner Gordon is seeing if you remember what was in the materials that we.
Oh, that is not actually in that. I believe it is 44 billion, but I do not remember the exact amount of the overall valuation. So it is a 6.45% increase in the state equalized valuation. And so that is what the state of Maine feels the actual value of all of the property in each one of the communities is. It is not the actual valuation for those communities, which can sometimes vary a little bit and sometimes vary a lot. But given that individual communities can have wide variations, some may be at 110% of the state valuations, other may be at 70%. There's really no choice but to use the state valuations for the sake of fairness.
Yeah, and would you repeat that figure again?
The overall number, I believe it is 44 billion. But I will have to go back. There's the 2018 number.
And Alex, can you get us access to the breakdown of our communities?
Absolutely. I can send it right out. It's a PDF, and a lot of communities are already requesting it. It just, as I sat here, I realized that's probably a nice little nugget to pass on to you folks that doesn't get discussed during the budget cycle, because it hasn't happened yet.
6.4%, you can just picture the school funding fleeing north from Cumberland County elsewhere.
Right, right. Unless that's occurring statewide, but
Probably not to that range.
it was localized along, interestingly enough, this case, as has been occurring the past few years. Portland and South Portland had pretty large numbers, which were roughly the average. There was also a band of communities north of the city, say starting with Freeport, heading over towards Wyndham/Gorham, that were all about 10% valuation increase, which is really big number
That might
for
come
1
up
year.
tomorrow night when you visit with the people in Freeport.
Well, it's sort of part of why I mention it.
We all love the property tax dearly, don't we? So, thank you. And commissioners, Commissioner Watonis,
I don't have anything this month.
we'll go down the other way. Commissioner
Just
Jameson.
a couple points. We're now in the dead of winter, folks, and it's important that you do be mindful of your neighbors and people in your neighborhood, particularly the elderly people. There also is a shortage of fuel oil and heating oil. So if you're mindful of your neighbors, that would be a good thing. I'm going to be participating in a fuel rally that we're having in Scarborough in about a week. And in our community, there's, a significant deficit. We're trying to raise about 12 grand to help people out, but just be mindful of that. And starting tomorrow, I think, preliminary games and tournament games will be happening in a wide variety of sports for our high school young men and women. And we urge all of them good luck and great sportsmanship. And we hope you can get out to the various games, and some of the games which will be held at the CIA Arena as well. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Gordon?
Well, thank you. I have very little. One thing I make sure of is, remember, the 15th is Valentine's Day, and you're on your own.
That would be the 14th.
That'll be the 14th.
And you will be on your own.
The 14th, excuse me.
By the 15th, you will be on your
Yes,
own.
yes. And the other thing is that the legislature is in session, so please pay attention to the bills that are coming out of your state government, because that's what's really going to control the taxes that we all get to see and pay. Thank you.
Thank you. I have very little, except almost like a pre-announcement. The 16th and 17th of March, which is a few days after our next meeting on March 11th, will be the Strive Rocks annual event, which will be taking place at the CIA again this year. They're very happy with that arrangement, and it will be a good opportunity for anyone who can stand it to come on out, do a little dancing all night long. So, raise some good money for a worthy cause. And that's all I have. Barbara, did you have anything that you needed to tell us about tonight?
No,
All set?
I'm all set.
Thank you very much. And can I have a motion to
Adjourn?
motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.